is the spinoff of The Mandalorian, that really awesome TV show on Disney Plus from Lucasfilm that takes place in the Star Wars universe. Once Boba Fett showed up in season 2 of The Mandalorian, alive and well and out of the Sarlacc pit from Return of the Jedi, we all knew he was going to get his own spin-off show. And then he just comes in at the end of season 2, takes over Jabba's palace, and off we go with the Book of Boba Fett. This is a review that is going to contain spoilers for the Book of Boba Fett, so if you have yet to see any of the episodes, or at least the last 3 episodes, particularly, you have been warned. I was very mixed on the Book of Boba Fett Season 1. Not to say it's a bad show, but for the first time since Disney acquired Lucasfilm, I've been right in the middle on something Star Wars related. I've been very lean, and this is coming from someone who has been very lenient, and I think rightfully so, on the sequel trilogy. There's problems with that trilogy that I can acknowledge, but I don't dislike a single movie in that trilogy. Nor do I dislike a movie like Rogue One, nor do I even dislike Solo, even if that is my least favorite of the 5 Disney movies that has come out so far. Mandalorian has been something to behold. I was really looking forward to seeing what they would do with Boba Fett now that he's given his own show. And it's great to see Tamora Morrison get another chance to portray Boba Fett. I love Tamora Morrison. He was great as Jango in the prequels, even though Jango was probably one of the worst bounty hunters in the galaxy, subtly hinting that he was on Coruscant to Attack of the Clones to assassinate Padme. I mean, every time I think of Tamora Morrison, he's just going to be associated with Jango Fett or Boba Fett. He's not just going to be Aquaman's daddy. He did not get put on this earth to be referred to as Aquaman's papa. The episode's directed by Robert Rodriguez, save for the finale. I've heard a lot of qualms about the finale. Robert Rodriguez directed episodes 1, 3, and 7. 7 is the finale. 7 I thought was fine. It was a giant action sequence the entire episode. I thought Robert Rodriguez was a bit more restrained and understood what Star Wars needs, as opposed to his other 2 episodes. I wasn't a big fan of the first episode. I thought it was kind of a slog. I thought it was very slow moving. It really didn't feel like it was setting anything up when it actually was, if you know what I mean. The most interesting parts of that episode were the flashbacks of Boba when he's on Geonosis and he's holding Jango Fett's helmet, and him remembering how he escaped the Sarlacc pit from Return of the Jedi. So we have our answers almost 30 to 40 years later. Lots of people have been waiting a long time for that. And for the first 4 episodes, Boba Fett is the main character of the show. But I just don't think they give him all that much to do. Especially in the first episode. I thought episode 3 was the worst episode of the season. Once again, it is directed by Robert Rodriguez. He's just injecting Robert Rodriguez-isms into Star Wars, where I don't think they should be in Star Wars. I knew for a fact that I felt like I was watching Machete Kills in Space or something. Danny Trejo even shows up in episode 3, and I actually had a problem with that. If that episode was not directed by Robert Rodriguez and Danny Trejo was in that episode, I probably wouldn't be saying anything about Danny Trejo being in Star Wars. Going into episode 3, I didn't even know Robert Rodriguez was directing episode 3. It got to a point in that episode where I had the sense that it was him. And he introduces this speeder bike gang that I completely fucking hated. I've been known to call them now the Power Rangers of Star Wars, because I mean all their speeder bikes are like what, pink, yellow, green, blue, the Power Rangers colors. I'm just waiting for them to jump on a Megazord, start slicing people in Tatooine. It wasn't only just that, it was the ensuing chase that followed. That chase was one of the worst Star Wars chases I've ever seen. It was poorly edited, poorly filmed. The green screen was shaking all over the place. I could not believe my eyes. I was actually literally flabbergasted that got past Kathleen Kennedy and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Let's talk about episode 2, because I think episode 2 is a good episode, but I think it could have been a great episode if it was about 10 to 15 minutes shorter. It was about 10 to 15 minutes shorter. I think it dragged on a little bit too much. I think the point of the episode was made, and then it just added an extra 10 minutes onto it for what felt like no reason at all. Boba is essentially hanging out with this gang of Tusken Raiders, and they're taking out a gang on a train. That's literally what the episode should have been, but instead they added 10 minutes on, and it just felt like it was dragged out and felt a little bit overblown at that point. But the rest of that episode before those last 10 minutes I thought was really good. And let's talk about ideas with this show. There are great ideas in the Book of Boba Fett. I just don't think the execution is all there. For instance, this gang of Tusken Raiders that Boba Fett is hanging out with for the first 3 episodes, I have no problem with them actually dying. They get killed in the 3rd episode. I just disagree with it in the 3rd episode. Because that was something that was giving Boba some attachment. That was actually letting us see a different side to Boba and letting us see, as audience members who are fans of Star Wars, a different side to the Tusken Raiders. And there just felt like there wasn't any payoff there. It seemed like they were just this obstacle that Boba had to get around. We're introduced to Jabba the Hutt's cousins in episode, it's either 2 or 3, I think they come in. I think it's 2. Where the hell were they for the rest of the show? Bring them back! The Hutts are such a stronghold in terms of crime syndicates in the galaxy. They could have done so much with the Hutts, but instead they made the Pikes the main antagonists. Not complaining about that, because I do like the Pikes, but I just think if you have the Hutts in the show, utilize the Hutts. We don't see much of the Hutts. I mean, there's a lot of the Hutts in Clone Wars, but seeing other live-action Hutts in Star Wars would have been really fucking cool. And they don't really do all that. I mean, they can't really do all that much because they're just giant slugs, for Christ's sake. But I just think that their presence should have been in the show a lot more. There were theories that I had with this show. I honestly thought Crimson Dawn from Solo was going to make a reappearance. I thought Darth Maul was possibly going to make a reappearance. I really thought Emilia Clarke as Kira was going to come back, especially where this show deals more with crime syndicates, and that's an idea that I really like, is how Boba Fett is entangled with all these different crime syndicates. None of that actually happens, and I'm okay with that, because for me that's wishful thinking, and that's fan theories, and, you know, writing headcanon in your head, and trying to make that the canon. And I think that's honestly what happened with people with the sequel trilogy, where they just wrote out episodes 8 and 9 in their head and couldn't let go of what was in their head already and just rolled with that instead of what we actually got, when what we actually got was better than, in my opinion, anything that they came up with in their heads. So the idea of a crime syndicate and Boba being entangled in that crime syndicate, and the flashbacks we see of Boba on Kamino, Tatooine, and in the Sarlacc pit, I thought was all really well done. Episode 4, I don't even remember. Was that the Fennec Shand episode? I feel bad because I really like Fennec Shand as a character. I just don't remember a goddamn thing about that episode. I'm sorry. Jesus Christ. But it's episode 4 where you can tell that Boba Fett is the main character of his own show, and they have no idea what to do with Boba Fett, which makes Boba Fett as a character less interesting, because it just feels like he's going through the motions. Like, it feels like it's a normal Saturday afternoon for Boba Fett. So when it comes to episode 5, we have the return of a classic character, or a couple classic characters, the return of the Mandalorian. And here's where fans view the show as taking off, and the 2 best episodes happen here. But it's also polarized a lot of people, because all of a sudden, Boba Fett is out of episode 5. He is nowhere to be seen, and he's in episode 6 for about 30 seconds. So within 2 episodes that are probably 45 to 50 minutes in length each, he gets 30 seconds of screen time. I love The Mandalorian, but I do agree with the common complaint that it does turn into season 3 of The Mandalorian. But those episodes are great. Bryce Dallas Howard directed episode 5. Let her direct a Star Wars movie. Let her direct a Star Wars trilogy. Fuck it. Let her direct a Star Wars saga. That was the best directed episode of the season. Best episode of the season as well. Seeing Din Djarin use the Darksaber and just wreck house on people was amazing. Episode 6 comes along and we get another Mandalorian episode where the Mandalorian goes to the planet where Luke and Grogu are. Luke is teaching Grogu the ways of the Jedi. Which, by the way, anyone saying that the sequel trilogy is going to be decanonized by the show, I hate to break it to you, but the seeds are planted for Luke's eventual characterization in The Last Jedi in this episode. And I actually really love that. Because everybody's like, well, no, they're making Grogu his first student, not Kylo Ren. But Luke gives Grogu a choice at the end of the episode. The Mandalorian brings Grogu a set of armor, and Luke is telling Grogu, you have to let go of all attachment. So Luke gives Grogu a red pill, blue pill type of choice. He could take Yoda's lightsaber and continue to train to be a Jedi, or he could take the armor that the Mandalorian has brought for him and go back to the Mandalorian. And we find out in the season finale, Grogu has actually taken the Mandalorian armor and has decided to go back to the Mandalorian. So, effectively, that does make Kylo Ren Luke's first student. And I don't know, I could be reaching. This is what George Lucas is talking about when it's poetry. It rhymes. I could be reaching. But for me, the flashbacks we saw in the sequel trilogy of the Jedi Academy and it burning and Luke putting his hand on R2-D2 and the planet where he's training Grogu look very similar. It's not Ahch-To. It can't be Ahch-To. Ahch-To's a giant island. It's not the island that James Bond died on, but it's an island. So for me, if I'm making that parallel connection, this has to be the planet that we saw in the flashbacks of Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, where he began his Jedi Academy, and Kylo Ren and his fellow pupils became students. I like the little details like that, and again, I could be stretching it, I could be looking too far into it. That could not even be what that place is at all. Whatever it may be, loved it, loved seeing Ahsoka back. Episode 6 is a very dialogue-heavy episode, and it's one of the best episodes. It's just weird, though. Again, you can tell Boba Fett, they don't know what to do with Boba Fett, so he just kind of becomes the side character in his own show, and now it's the Mandalorian show. And everybody loves The Mandalorian. Seasons 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian can do no wrong. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are the gods of the Star Wars universe. You might want to think about that, though, when it gets to Episode 7. I enjoyed the finale. I've seen a lot of complaints about it. That's very anticlimactic and rushed. Things are rushed, sure. Episode 6 introduces a live-action Cad Bane. Of course, we've seen him in the Clone Wars show. And he's barely in the finale. And Cad Bane being in the show really just feels like fan service for the sake of fan service. Cad Bane didn't really impress me, but going as far as to nitpicking his look, that's just stupid. I have no problem with that at all. That's probably the most accurate we're going to get a live-action Cad Bane. So I'm cool with that. I like that the finale was just an all-out war between the Pikes and everybody that Boba and Jin and Din have just gathered on Tatooine, and they're all just going at it. It's directed by Robert Rodriguez, but out of the 3 he's directed, this is the one that I like. I don't like the first episode, and I hate the third episode. This actually felt like I was watching Star Wars again, directed by Robert Rodriguez. My problem with this episode, though, is that Boba is in the episode, but again, it's just the Mandalorian show, because Grogu's in this episode. He takes up a lot of screen time. Din Djarin takes up a lot of screen time. Din Djarin's friends take up a lot of screen time, and there's not a lot of focus on Boba Fett. So Boba Fett just gets downgraded. I guess the best way to put it is that the show, in a way, disappointed me. Because after all these years of wondering if Boba Fett was alive, he is alive, and he doesn't do much. It really makes me like him less as a character, and Mando more as a character. It just felt like the first 3 episodes of Season 3 of The Mandalorian. So there's a lot in here that is a huge mixed bag. While some of it is great, some of that also plays into the negativity I have towards the season. But some of it plays into the positivity I have towards the season as well. But it is really split right down the middle for me. I can't even remember one episode. I don't like one episode, and I totally hate another episode. And the last 3 episodes of the season is like an elongated Mandalorian Season 3 or an extended cut of Season 2 of The Mandalorian. But those are the best episodes. So what did you guys think of Season 1 of the Book of Boba Fett? Drop me some feedback in the comment section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.